And so we went through that to get the body exhumed. But that happened, and I had no clue it was happening when it happened.
Yeah. She was no longer, I mean, she was definitely not your attorney. She was the DA.
Right.
I mean, that's I don't know exactly how that sort of ethical possible conflict should be evaluated, but I'm uncomfortable with the fact that she did that on her own and didn't let you have any kind of information about what was happening. Yeah. But on the other hand, she did do it as a DA investigating a case. So from her logic, she was just the DA investigating a murder and trying to see if there's evidence that pointed at someone who had not been convicted by exhuming the body.
The one thing that when she made the statement that it was over, this case is finished, and it was printed in the paper, I hope Mrs. Reeves' family can have some peace now. And that kind of got me, but went on with it. One thing they accomplished by exhuming the body is it ended it. She was right about that. It was over. All the news people packed up and left town, and nothing happened until last year when Susan drops in. And here we are talking to you on the phone.
Well, I actually did mean to ask you about that. Was what gives you peace now?
Well, there's still some hope because, you go 20 years and nothing is going on. What gives me peace? I don't really have any peace until it's a done deal, but I feel like I've got, I know it's a long shot, but I've lived long shots all my life. Nothing happened for 20-something years, but here I am on 9/11 talking to you and Susan on the phone. So something's happened.
I told you pretty early on when we were talking about the case, and I was like, I don't know. It's very unlikely that legally anything will happen here, but I can tell your story at least.
Yeah, and that's helped me because you've been able to get things out that I've not been able to tell before, especially with the GBI and those other murders they did up there. That was good to hear that brought out. And I don't think I have any hope with the judicial system ever doing anything, but there is a long shot that the state does have the authority to, what is it, Susan?
It's a pardon on grounds of actual innocence.
Yeah. That's a long shot way out there, but it was a long shot that I'm even talking on the phone with y'all. So I've had fun with Susan going back and bringing back stuff, remembering stuff. She'll ask me a question. I can't think of it then, and then it comes back to me. And so digging some of this stuff back up, it's been bittersweet. But I think the best fun I had was looking for Otis on those country roads.
Oh, what is this? I'm sorry, I don't remember.
Oh, God. I'll give the brief overview. Yeah. There was a rumor. How can I tell this the right way?
Be careful.
So there was a rumor that this man named Otis, that the last anyone heard from him is he was on the phone saying, look, I've got this Floyd County officer behind me with his blue lights on. He's trying to pull me over. And he didn't trust this certain officer at all. So he's like, I'm not pulling over. That's the last time I ever heard of him. And then the rumor was that he was found dead in the woods a few days later, but he had a fake leg, and the fake leg was not with him. So how did he get into the woods and, pass away without the fake leg? And I thought there's no way it was true. So, and I couldn't find this Otis guy because all I had was the name Otis. So Mitchum was out, searched. We had a few clues, and Mitchum was out there searching
I knew that area.
The local forest?
Well, no. The local, a certain area of town. It's a bit rougher. And we found him. And in fact, he did actually die in the woods.
What?
With his fake leg not next to him. His fake leg was there in the woods too, but it was closer to the car. He was out farther in the woods without his fake leg.
Oh, okay. Well,
and his last call was reporting.
Hopping.
Yeah. It was a long hop. It was a long hop. And he did The article I found said, like, we don't know why he called to tell his friends that the police were following him with the blue lights on, because there's no evidence that ever happened.
When Susan told me the certain officer that was involved with this and the area, well, I knew that area up in there, and we used to have stash places that when in the liquor business, you had to have stash locations, and we had a lot of stash locations. And the place up in that area was called the bauxite mines up in there. And some of those bauxite mines have no bottom. And there's a lot of bodies probably up there and a lot of other stuff up in there. So I knew the area, and I used to stash liquor up there. So I'm looking for this guy, Otis, and here I am on them dirt roads again. And, man, that was... it was fun. I enjoyed it. it was
so it took you back.
Kind of a danger type place to be in, but it was, and stuff like that. She and I had a lot of laughs about. I'm going to miss that, man. That type thing. So doing this story has been bittersweet. I know tonight's the last one. I thought about it and I said, well, if, is everybody going to pack up and go away? But this time it's different. It's out there on the internet, and I guess it's out there, will be out there forever or however long.
There's an internet.
Yes.
How long it stays up. And there's still some hope that this other informer may show up. The mystery man may still be around. Somebody might recognize his voice,
Yeah, Mystery Man, I mean, he asked you never to give his name up, and you don't know it, so I can't give that up. But Mystery Man's big concern was Bo Salmon, but that's no longer an issue. So, I mean, if we could find out who he was, I think there's a good chance he'd be willing to talk publicly now. And he went to meet Tammy Colston. Like, he was not afraid of, like, being on the record. He just didn't want Bo Salmon to know what he was doing.
And his wife. He was really concerned his wife not know what he was doing. She was worried about him getting involved in it. So, but
the people, it's a bunch of people sort of that ran in Bo's circle and may have been Mystery Man's info source.
Yeah.
But those people were calling Bo still in 1980, because I have the phone records for Bo from 1980 from the GBI file, and they show that those same people and Richard Holcomb are still on the phone with Bo all the time.
Yeah.
When he's in prison.
No. And before, this is up in, so 1980 in Dalton, right before the murders of Albert Klein and Henry Ridley Jr., the GBI pulled his phone records for that whole year. So for he and Charlotte, really. So you can see who they were calling and who in Rome they're still in contact with. And it was the same people who seemed to have information about what happened that night. Yeah,
that was interesting. Something that was real good for me to hear was Lana telling this story, what Bo told her. I've been telling for years that the GBI told me they had an informer, but then to hear that, her saying that, really was a shot in the arm for me. You know what I mean?
There has to be one more. I do think there has to be one more, because what you remember and what everything suggests is that someone told them not just that Bo had killed Grace, but also that they had knowledge you weren't even there. And Lana is adamant that wasn't her. She has no idea where you were. That was never part of any story Bo told her. So she can't be the one the GBI was talking about.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. The other person is somewhere that actually told them that I wasn't there, and that's who we would like to see surface.
And is Tammy Colston still? Did she become a judge?
She's a judge.
She's a judge now. Got it. So the chances that she'll ever divulge this are tiny.
Zero.
Diddly. Got it. Well, but this podcast is mighty, and I think you never underestimate its reach. I'm very hopeful that it existing on the internet will give new impetus for people to come forward. Someday, somewhere, someone who knows something's going to hear it, or have a relative like, my grandma talked about that. I'm going to go find out from her what else she knows. Yeah, people got a lot of free time and their long commutes, and they listen to podcasts. That's how this happens. I was amazed at that. I've been amazed at a lot of the comments that I've seen on there, and I haven't seen one yet that said they still thought I did it. I haven't seen that. If there's one on there, I don't know. And that makes me feel good. That people from there, I saw somebody from Ireland and
My goodness.
Your problem's always been that you just sound so guilty in the 1 sentence summary. Like,
yeah,
it's of course you're guilty. Like that, like woman dead, shot in the kitchen. Her daughter say our stepdad did it. Okay, I think we know what happened here.
Yeah, if I'm in
Let's
law
pack it up and go
enforcement,
home.
I can see why they didn't bother getting any evidence. Well, I'm not that unprofessional. I'm unprofessional. Don't get me wrong. I'm slapdash at best.
But no, they had to have wondered because from what we know, they saw those bloody footprints that were somewhere they should never be, and they went and got Gary's shoes and put them up against the footprints, and they did not match. So they had to know something was wrong. Oh, that's one other part. So in the Henry Ridley Jr. murder, they found Henry's car at this gas station, and they found a beer bottle in the car with Bo's fingerprints on it, and there were footprints coming out of the car that they took pictures of. And unfortunately, they're not the best photographs of those footprints, so I've been trying to figure out what size they are. Because the footprints that were in the house, the bloody ones, they were bigger than Mitchum's shoes are. So I was trying to see if possibly there was some sort of size correlation there with Bo's apparent footprints. But I don't. He definitely had bigger feet. His footprints had he had bigger feet than you did, so maybe it was him. But then again, maybe it was Richard.
Would there be prison records of his shoe size? I know it sounds crazy.
Yeah.
I know nothing about how these records are kept, but I have to figure that there were prison records of that. But would we have any kind of access to that?
If I had photos of the footprints in the Maple Street house, I'd be pushing harder for it. Because maybe they do, but right now we don't have records on either the ones they found in the house or Bo's. So
when I first started listening to after meeting Susan, and I started listening to Joy's case, and I would come unglued at night. I had to stop listening to it at night because I'd get so mad hearing.
It's so infuriating. Yeah.
Oh my God! And I thought, man, these people are still doing this kind of thing up here. So I had to listen to it in the daytime because it'd keep me up all night, bouncing off the walls. But what impressed me so much with everybody is involved with the podcast, you and the Innocent Project Claire and those people, is the compassion that they all have for people like me and Joy in these situations. That impressed me so much. And then all the detail work that Susan has done, you can't say thank you and express it. It does. Thank you just doesn't do it justice. I don't know how to say it. If there is a way to say it that gives it justice. But whatever happens from here forward, I'm eternally grateful.
So, Mitchum, you knew Stanley Sutton.
Oh yeah, he was an idiot. He was an idiot 40 years ago. I don't think half the police force, really, too many of them liked him. John, I worked then as I was a trustee, and I worked at the court, what they call the courthouse annex at that time. And downstairs was the county police station. Upstairs was the county commissioners and purchasing department and all that stuff. So at night, I'd be working up there and try to find a reason to stay there as long as I could without having to go back to prison. So just out on the yard, just out on the driveway, Stanley was always, we called it horseplay. I told Susan that. She sent me back, what's horseplay? Just, do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't actually.
I do.
To me, horseplay is.
I talked to an old officer, a retired officer from the Floyd County Police Department, and I was asking about Stanley Sutton, and he said, Stanley Sutton broke 3 of my ribs. We were just horseplaying. Yeah. It just roughhousing, I guess. Just always something like that going on. But the one thing that stood out, and I don't think he ever carried me back to the camp. It was usually some other officer that would carry me back to the camp. That's when I was campaigning for my parole. He had heard about that the GBI had an informer that said I was not there when Grace was killed, and was talking about it. There's another officer there. And he said, I would never, ever trust another policeman in my life if that happened to me.
And he said, I'd hate